This week's episode of The Owl House was very significant, I would say. And yet you're going to be surprised to look down at the timestamp on this video and realize it's not very long. And that's because, and I'm going to go ahead and just spoil my whole review right now, as significant as this episode was, I also found it to be incredibly anticlimactic. It's not bad by any stretch. It was really great that we got confirmations of the stuff in this episode. But, like, we already knowed this, guys. This is a thing we already knew. It's cool we were right, but, I mean, that's about it. Because it is in this episode that Luce, with the help of Lilith, who is trying to one-up her rival historian? She has a rival historian, because she's a historian now. Which is just so delightfully nerdy and Lilith on every level. But by trying to one-up this rival, she, with Luce's help, discovers the time pools that she and Ida used to look for when they were kids, that literally let you go back in time. And by using them, they go back in time and visit the Savage Ages so that Luce can talk directly to Philip and try to figure out what she did wrong when she was making the portal door. And we learn three significant things in the past. One, we learn that the Savage Ages were not savage. They were in fact pretty peaceful, and everyone kind of helped each other out pretty freely. Like, we see a very idyllic version of this time period here in this episode. We see just like a brief slice of it, a brief snapshot of it. So there was almost definitely hardships that people had to deal with. But it was not savage. It was not uncontrolled savagery where everyone was miserable all the time, like Bellows seems to insist that it was. Two, we learned that Philip was kind of an asshole. He was kind of a colonizer asshole who used people and thought very little of the seemingly uncivilized monsters that he found himself amongst in this other dimension. He was not a good guy, and in fact, I've seen people in the fandom wondering if his diary can even be entirely trusted. And it can't. He specifically wrote it in such a way that it made him seem better. Which means that his plan was always for others to read this diary and use it as like a educational text that specifically made him look good and intelligent and heroic, like he was the hero of this place. Like everyone worshipped him, which speaks to a certain mindset that Philip had, which seems very similar to the mindset that our main villain has, which is why the third thing that we learn here, that Philip and Bellows are the same person, makes perfect sense. It also makes perfect sense for the dozens upon dozens of other reasons that the show has already given us, and that's why it wasn't really surprising at all. There was cool stuff here, don't get me wrong. Seeing that the malady afflicting Bellows now seems to have been caused by Philip literally infusing his body with glyph magic, learning that the glyphs did not come to him the way they came to Luce, that he had to look for them and the world seemed to be hiding them from him, learning that there's a structure inside the Titan's head, learning that the Collector, the creature that Philip was looking for, that now Luce thinks that she needs to find in order to get the help she needs about the door, is like a magical artifact more than a person. Those were all really cool things. There's even a little bit more acknowledgement in this episode of Philip's brother, and again, he looks a lot like Hunter, which further seems to assert that Hunter is the brother's clone. And again, it feels super good to have all this stuff confirmed for us as a fandom, because we've been theorizing about this for a long time. But, like, it wasn't surprising enough. And that sounds super harsh, but it's just, I don't know how to describe it. The episode, the climax of the episode, just fell kind of flat for me. It also seems that maybe Luce becoming involved by going back in time actually helped Bellows rise to power, which is interesting, I guess. But, like, we have no way of knowing that he wouldn't have pulled off the same stuff in a different way if she hadn't been there. So we can't say that for sure. I don't know, it was interesting. It was interesting for sure. But, like, I already knew all of these things. At the same time, though, I already knew Garnet was a fusion before the Steven Universe episode Jailbreak. And I was still super satisfied by that. So, why am I not super satisfied with this reveal, too? Why do I like it, but still feel underwhelmed by it? It might be the fact that Luce doesn't learn that Bellows and Philip are the same person. She leaves the episode, she ends the episode not liking Philip anymore, but she doesn't realize he's Bellows. Lilith might kind of suspect it at this point. She's definitely reached a point where she doesn't trust all the things that Bellows used to say, and recognizes him as a manipulator, and at one point she does seem to be about to liken Philip's behavior to Bellows's, but then gets distracted before she can. So she might make the connection at some point. But she's not a main character, she's a recurring character. So it could be a really long time before our main characters learn this too. And I think that might be why I'm a little disappointed by this. This was a reveal for the fans, and the fans didn't need it. It would have been way more satisfying, I think, to see the characters learn this. And I think they eventually will, and that'll be nice, and I think at that point, that satisfaction will really hit. Still, this was cool to see, and introducing time travel to this world does open up whole new storytelling possibilities. So, I still think this, the A plot of the episode, there was a B plot too, was overall pretty good. Like, just structurally, objectively, it was good. It's really just my hang-ups that kind of make me think a little less fondly about it. That's not really true of the B plot, though. The B plot I thought was really cool because of some other stuff going on that I'm not going to get into because it's not necessary for the review. Ida and Lilith's parents are around. And they're both super excited to meet their new grandson. He wants to meet them. And he wants Ida to reconcile with her dad. And this is another thing that we already kind of knew. The fandom had already kind of suspected this. But Ida definitely injured her dad when she turned into the Owl Beast that one time in that one flashback. And she injured him to the point that he's basically a different person now than he was before. But it's not like he's angry with her about it. Like, this was my personal headcanon already. That it wasn't that he was angry with her about it, it's that she was angry with herself. And that's what the episode shows us. He shows up to try to reconcile with her. Apparently he tries this a lot. But she blames herself for injuring him to the point that he can't carve palismans anymore, which was his life's passion. But he reveals how much he wants to reconcile with his daughter. And not just so he can spend time with his grandson either, but because he loves his daughter still and has forgiven her. But also that, interestingly, he's been working with Bat Queen to restore... Totally got my hair stuck in my fingernail there. To restore palismans to the world. Palisman trees. Anyway. And he gives Ida a palisman tree seed, which is important. Very important. Because I think Ida's going to end this series having taken up the mantle of a palisman creator from her father. I think that's what this is hinting at. And that's really cool. Isn't that such a cool thing? Like, she's someone who is so connected with the natural magics of this world, and she loves the natural wild magics so much. And seeing as how she's someone who also feels bad for robbing the world of someone who used to practice this specific kind of magic, wouldn't it be so cool if she ends up practicing it herself, especially now that it seems that she's never going to be able to practice the kind of magic that she used to practice ever again. In fact, her main source of power at this point is her own palisman. I feel like it fits too well not to be where her character is going. Like, this is even an episode, like, part of the... I guess it was part of the A plot and the B plot of this episode simultaneously. But one of the aspects of this episode is that Lilith just got a new job. She's starting to discover what she wants to do with herself now that her life has changed so much. it makes sense that that's something that Ida would start to think about soon, too. It's weird to say it, but I was almost more interested in this B plot than I was the Philip A plot. Because, again, I already knew everything we were going to learn in the Philip A plot, aside from, like, some of the specifics, right? And this B plot, it was just really cute. It was really cute character growth for Ida and an introduction to a character that I really wanted to meet. Ida's dad. Though I will say, at least as far as I remember, did we actually maybe see him interact a little bit at the end? But I don't think we did. I don't think we actually saw Ida's dad interact with King, which is kind of a bummer. That kind of bums me out. Hadn't really thought about it until literally right now, but that kind of bums me out. Hopefully we'll see it later, which will be fine. Also, brief aside before I forget to talk about it. While we're on the topic of adopted family, I made the gag earlier about Lilith's motivation being to one-up her rival, but that's not her only motivation in this episode. She also wants to show Luce that she can be a cool aunt, and uses the term aunt throughout the entire episode, and Luce and Ida never correct her, which does, like, we knew this already also, right? But that just outright confirms that Luce thinks of Ida as her second mother and King as her brother, and it was super cute. Just so cute. It was great. Anyway, this episode, which is called Elsewhere and Elsewhen, I haven't said that yet, but that's the title of the episode, was good. I want to make it clear, this was a good episode. I just feel like they wanted the Bellows reveal at the end to be way more impactful than it actually ended up being, because they did such a good job prior to this of telegraphing that stuff ahead of time. It's really just that the show has too good a continuity. It's as simple as that, and I can't be disappointed by that. At least not principally, right? As per usual, though, guys, what do you think of Elsewhere and Elsewhen, the Owl House episode? If you have seen it, let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, you might as well like the video, share it with anyone else you think would enjoy my content, subscribe if you haven't. You can also check out links to my various social medias, as well as the many ways you can help out the channel. Those will be in the video description, but either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.